You are listening to the Tribe Architect podcast. I am your host, Razvan Popescu. For this episode's guide and resources, please visit thetribearchitect.com/5. And now, let's get to this episode. Today, we have Derick Johnson, U.S. Army veteran turned life coach that helps people break all patterns so they can thrive, not just survive. Welcome, Derick.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking you, what makes you awesome?
What makes me awesome? That's a good question. So I would say that I feel like everybody's gifted by God or whatever they believe in with some skill. And I feel like my skill was using pain as fuel and not letting or allowing stressful situations to throw me off. I'm not saying that these things aren't real, but I've noticed that since childhood, in middle school, I was 11 or 12. That is when I faced a lot of trauma with alcoholic parents at home and a lot of madness between like 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., a lot of screaming, yelling, glass being thrown, and all that happened for at least 10 years. So when you see that, there's two options. One, you can continue violence or anger and all that and let it out at school or in public. And that wasn't me. I was always very calm. So what really helped me was fitness. So I would exercise more so for the mind. So I would train my body and mind to be calmer. And then I would work on my faith. So it was a combination. First, train the body to open up the mind and see clear, and then do some faith work, personal development, reading, learning, and all that. So I would say the ability to stay calm in stressful situations, because I was always in stressful situations where there was a lot of pressure, stress, and anxiety, whatever somebody would like to call it. But I would thrive in those moments. And I noticed that the childhood spilled into sports, spilled into the military, and then everything connected. So it was always interesting to see back. I was just a calm, quiet kid. Yes, I was stressing, but I just never would show it. And I would never complain to people. I would always either release it with fitness, release it to God in prayers, or I would just try to help as many people as I could because it made me happy and fulfilled me seeing others happy, seeing them level up, get healthier. So I feel like it's all connected, but definitely the ability to not allow negative situations to totally throw me off. I can breathe, I can zoom out and look at the situation. And I could say, okay, what can I control? And then focus from there.
Yeah, definitely, that's a very important skill to have and not easy actually to acquire.
Oh, not at all.
So, how did you get there? What's your story?
So growing up, my father was US Army. So he was in 25 plus years. And my mother is German and she's been a kindergarten teacher for like 40 plus years. So she was very structured and gung ho. If you all are familiar with Germans, they're very,
Yes.
get it done. And then the same thing with African Americans. My dad grew up on a farm, so he was a farmer. And then he got into the military. So he just had the work ethic. So both parents, they instilled the work ethic, the focus, determination, and all that. So that was a blessing. But then on the flip side is that they were both the oldest of multiple children. So they had to be the parents when their mom was at work, working multiple jobs. So they ran the house, did everything with the brothers and sisters, and they had to grow up fast. But dealing with that, there was their own trauma that they went through as children and as teens, and then throughout their careers and other personal things. But I realized that our house, so we lived in Florida at the time. As a child, we lived in Germany for a few years, and then we moved to Florida in the United States. So we had a beautiful house, multiple bedrooms, a screened-in pool. Everything looked nice from the outside, beautiful family and all this. And then our house was the house for the cookouts, for the graduation parties, for the get-togethers. If somebody wanted to use our house for the get-together, we'd say, hey, come on over. And everything was positive. But once the guests left and the last bottle was drank, that's when they would just release. And it was never that anything bad was happening. It was more so that I noticed only when they would drink that they would just release that trauma, anger, aggression, whatever it was from their past. So the first time I saw that, I was age 11. But after a few months of seeing that, I realized that they were looking through me and not at me, as in they were releasing and something from their past. And I never asked the question what it was, but then I would see it as a challenge. Yes, it was stressful. Yes, it bothered me at first, but I would see it as, hey, I know plenty of people that have gone through things worse, so I would never complain. And my parents were very popular. They had good reputations. So I never wanted to put it out there to anyone and ruin anything. Because the very next morning, they would be awake at 4 and 5 a.m., exercising, making their coffee, preparing the day, first ones at work.
Wow.
And it didn't bother like their career, their day, but it was only at night if they were drinking that they would release on me. So I was the youngest. So going back to how I was able to do that was I always fell in love with fitness because of like comeback stories. I always loved movies like Rocky, 8 Mile, if people like Eminem, just anybody that grew up in a harsh upbringing. I literally, as a kid, got obsessed with those stories and movies and autobiographies, music, anything of somebody that went through things worse. I would learn those things and I would use it to fuel my workouts, whether I was running, lifting weights, and then I would just fall in love with the high afterwards. I'd be calm and focused. And then I would go to school and I'd be happy to be at school because I enjoyed being out of the beautiful house more than being at home because it didn't feel like a home.
Yeah.
So that's what really helped me with that. Well, one of my favorite quotes is by Tony Robbins, and there's two of them. One is life is happening for you, not to you.
Exactly.
Life is happening for you, not to you. And I heard that when I was 11 or 12. And when I heard it, because my dad would play Tony Robbins cassette tapes. So I grew up with cassettes, DVDs, CDs, and then
I
Wi-Fi and all
remember
that
that.
stuff. So when I heard that, it really stuck out. And then the other one that stuck out to me at the time was if my mother gave me the love that I wanted, I wouldn't be the man I am today. So that both of those really hit me
Yeah, it's interesting because you need to go through hard times to become a better person.
for sure. Definitely.
So let's jump straight into our topic, accountability, and how we can instill responsibility and ownership in the next generation of entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, these days, accountability it's a very rare word because, especially in governments and corporations, no one is. They are talking a lot about accountability, but I don't think they really know what the term means. So, actually, how do you think we can teach our children to be accountable first of all and responsible and resilient? How can we prepare them for the future and hopefully change this world that is not going to the right direction from my point of view?
Yeah, I totally agree. So I would look at it as number one, kids. We were all kids at one point. We do as our parents or family or guardians do rather than what they say. So they could say everything and we really don't listen. But if we see mom and dad waking up early, drinking water, working out, always in great shape, positive to people, we emulate that no matter how our relationship is with them. And it could be in the negative direction. So somebody could give good advice, but then they wake up, they smoke cigarettes, they do this, they're yelling at their wife. Like it could be the total opposite. And so like that kid might go to school angry and just acting like dad or acting like mom. So I would always look at it as reminding just ourselves that people do as they see us do rather than just as what we say. Because some people in some family settings, they talk good, but if you look at their life, it's the total opposite. So they give great advice, but they actually don't live that thing. So I would always start with that to say, if I had to watch a video of myself every night of a time lapse, like a fast forwarded video before I go to bed, would I be proud of this man or woman?
Exactly.
And if we're honest and like cut out ego and pride, then we can say, I need to do more of this. Or yes, I'm proud. And if somebody saw that individual, would they look up to him or her? So I would really look at it like that. It's hard for most people because of the pride and ego. And then
Yes.
they play a character at work, they play a character in public or on social media. But if somebody can just be themselves all the time and just try to become better, people will feel that energy. And especially children, they will see that and they will look up to it. Wow, dad is doing this. He's working hard. He's up early. I want to wake up early. And it's just really interesting to see what can be instilled. So I would always start with ourselves and say, have I been doing what I want my children to be doing by what they see, not by what I'm saying?
Then I think I would go even further than that. I don't think we have the right to ask our children to do whatever we can't do or we are not willing. I have an example of my son because I'm a very big fan of Wim Hof with cold showers. Every morning I'm
Oh,
doing that. And he's always, the water is too hot. I want it colder. So it's pretty much living by
exactly.
example, right?
100%. And the weird thing about nowadays, it's the total opposite with most companies, most businesses, where it's like outdated corporate. We've always done it this way. We do it by the book. Let's do it like this. It's very fake. It's like people can feel the energy. Nobody wants to be
Yeah.
there. Everybody's like putting a mask on. Oh, hi. They walk out of the room, they talk about it. It's just outdated. So the best companies or coaches or whatever somebody does, they have good leadership and everybody enjoys being there and the morale is higher. So, like in the military or even in sports, I would always try to come up, make people smile, make them laugh, get them motivated, no matter how my morning was going or how my night was going,
Exactly.
because all that is irrelevant. Because if I can make them feel good or get excited, I feed off that good energy. And then all of us start to go up. And then we look at the day like, yes, today's going to be a great Wednesday or great Thursday, opposed to it's going to be another day, another one of those days. So I always wanted to make sure that I could flip everyone's energy up and into a positive way. So that way they're more excited about life. So be that pattern interrupter. Because a lot of people, they wake up and they don't realize that they're always complaining, maybe not verbally or to anyone, but in their head. Why is this happening, God? Why this? I don't want to work. Why? And that is true. Stress is real. Anxiety, depression is real. But if we look at it as humans, we're all designed to be selfish because we try to protect ourselves. But if we're always complaining, we're just selfish and we don't want to do that thing or don't feel like it. But I would challenge people to remind them that somebody's looking up to them, even if they don't have kids. The neighbor down the street is watching them walk or run, family member, cousin, whoever, coworker, somebody's always watching. And for us just to show up better. And it's actually selfless because people would call that selfish, but it's selfless when we take care of ourselves because we're going to radiate that energy to others rather than neglect ourselves, unhealthy and all that. We get around people in public, we're going to be like that aggression, that anger. People can feel that and they don't want to be around that person, especially with the leader. They they drop everyone's morale. Monday morning meeting with the team. Hey, last week sucked. What are we going to do to make this better? Everybody's like, oh my, it's 8 a.m. You just walked in. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a fun day.
Because if you're not okay, how can you help someone else? That's the whole idea. In the airplane, if you don't put your mask, how can you help the other ones?
Oh, yeah.
You need to take care of yourself to be able to take care of your family, your neighbors, your kids, and everything else.
Oh, yeah. Another perspective. I just have one more
Sure.
thing. So, another perspective also is that not in every company or business, but in a lot of corporations or in the military, you'll see people in a high rank or high position who might be really cutthroat, negative, and all that. And some people think, that's not my personality, but the only way to get to that position or to make that money or success, I have to be an a-hole.
Yeah.
Some people like they see that because in some companies, all the top level people are pricks and nobody likes them. They're like, okay, do I have to become that person? I guess that's the only way to success. And it's an outdated thing where now when people see an example of a male or female that is successful and a good leader and they're healthy, they're like, wow, this is different because I'm used to only seeing these. Now we have somebody that's positive, takes care of themselves, takes care of others. This is interesting. I like that. So sometimes people just have to see the example to then be like, okay, I was about to go the negative path because all these individuals are successful. So let me go this path that feels much better.
Yeah, I noticed that trend, especially on the entrepreneurial side, because in entrepreneurship, you're dealing with less people, more flexible, and you can do a lot more things without that bureaucracy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot easier to have that approach, and hopefully, at some stage, to pass it on and make the world a better place.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's interesting because the other day I found on LinkedIn a post, and the caption was "Be a leader, not a boss." I came back home and I showed it to my son, to Dominic, and I said, "Can you identify the leader and the boss?" And straight away said, "He's the leader."
And him seeing that example, it's going to stick in his mind where he's like, wait, this is the example that my father showed me of a real leader or real man, not anything else. So it's awesome to see that you're training him that way because if he does come across somebody in public or in sports that acts a different way, he's going to be like, okay, I understand it. I'm probably not intimidated, but I understand that this is a different leadership style that I'm going to listen, but I'm not going to act like him or think everything is going up. I think it was for a while. Like I'm 33 years old. I was in the military. I worked for different companies in college and all that. So I've seen many different things and leadership styles. And I've also seen bosses that just an example could be like, let's just say this is a uniform. They don't know how to communicate with different people. So they show you their
Mm.
rank
Exactly.
basically to say, hey, you're going to listen to me. Shut up. And in my head, I'm like, you're basically just telling people that you don't know how to communicate with different people. Like you have no leadership skills. So you're going to get angry and insecure and say, here's my rank or here's my title or my letters. Listen to me. So that always irked me. But I do believe that nowadays, because of the power of social media and the way that companies are evolving, and people are more excited and seeing that there's a light in a positive way, that real leaders are starting to get more attention because of podcasts like this, YouTube videos, things of that nature, courses, and people see, wow, this is different. So I do think that real leaders are starting to step up and utilize all these apps and programs to get the word out there because it's inspiring people. Because a lot of people that didn't listen to podcasts, watch videos or all that, they used to just be stuck in the corporate or wherever they're working and be like, wow, is this it? But once they start seeing examples on their phone and TV of true leaders, they're like, okay, this is exciting. How can I become part of this or make myself like that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's good that we have everything now readily available online, and it's more accessible than before, because before you didn't have anything. You had TV and radio.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How can we teach kids about leadership?
So I would start with team building. Team building, it could be a group project at school. Obviously, Dominic, he's doing a homeschool, but once he does play sports, if he wants to, I think that every kid and teen should always get into sports, even if they don't like it. But it's more so instilling the work ethic, the team building, because what happens is it's equivalent to the military. So we have spring training for football or basketball or training for the military. We don't want to be there. We're tired. We don't like this guy. We don't like that person. After a few weeks of training together, we all feel better. We think clear. We work together as a team on the basketball court, on the soccer field, whatever it is, in the field training for military. But then you realize everybody starts to respect each other. And it's an interesting shift because then they're like, wow, day one, I hated this guy and I thought he was like this or he thought I was like this. But once we push each other, and in the army, we say embrace the suck. So we go through the dirt together, through the mud, through the training, through the 6 a.m. workouts. And after a few weeks, everyone starts to respect each other and we work together. That the only way to really see that and feel it is to go through that together as a team, not just a person by themselves, because once they're around different people, they get tested. But also in that group setting, I would challenge kids and parents and adults and leaders to just say, whoever you see that's struggling, do something to help them. So in sports, it could be, my example would be, I was always like the fastest kid in school on the basketball court, on the field. But what I would do, I would pass the finish line and then I would run back to the slowest kid and
Push.
push and motivate him. Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Michelle. And it made me feel good because again, at home, I didn't get that support. So I try to give it to people and it made me feel good, made them feel good, and it was a win-win. So I would challenge people, if they're naturally already athletic, always go back and push the person that needs help. If it's in a classroom or if it's in another group setting, I would see how you can help the other people that are on your team and in your group. And that always increases their skills. It shows them that you care. And overall, the team energy starts to elevate. And it's very interesting to see. And I believe that that's a huge thing that's missing from kids that maybe aren't in school or aren't in sports. They just need more of that teamwork in whatever it is and to help each other.
I know that you've done martial arts and you've done something close to Taekwondo, and he's doing Taekwondo actually.
Martial arts helped me so much, especially when my sensei would see that I was angry one day. He would just see it on my face. I would never release it on people, but he would make me go teach the kids class. He's like, hey, I see you're angry today. Go teach the class. And you have to do what you're told. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And then I got really good at just teaching and helping them, all the white belts. And then this kid would get better. And then the parents would come pick them up from class and say, wow, he never listens at home. Like he's so focused right now. What did you do? What did you do with my son? Like he's so focused. And I was like, hey, I just had patience. We worked on this, worked on that. And it was interesting to see the kids will start to become more controlled, calmer, and all that. And maybe the parents brought them there because they're like, I can't control my kid. Like they run around, they never listen, they never this. And it's like, hey, I understand, but we're going to take care of that, not in an aggressive way, in a fun, competitive way. And then after a while, if you have to be serious for a moment. But if you make things into a competition, it makes it more fun and exciting. So like if you're holding a plank and you're in that position on your elbows and you're trying to hold your back straight and you're going for 20 seconds and just pushing them to say, hey, I bet you can't go for 30. They push, and you just keep going. Something that simple can instill it in them so much. That's why I always believe that parents have to get their kids in either martial arts or sports because they have to have more of those experiences. Because once they push past their pain limit, their threshold, hold something a longer time, or they help somebody else, they're like, wow, this is exciting. And these light bulbs start going off and they want more of that feeling and it makes them grow.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the reasons that we encouraged him to go, and now we can't stop him actually
Yeah.
because of the focus. He's got a lot of energy, which is a very good thing. I know it's harder for us as parents, but long term it will be a lot better for him. We can see the difference now. We definitely can see the difference. He's more disciplined. He's more focused. I listened to some of your podcast episodes, and you mentioned alter egos. Dominic has some fears. At this age, you have a lot of fears. How can you use, or is it possible to use alter egos uh, to get rid of some fears or to face your fears and long term to pretty much get on the other side the right way?
Yes, definitely. For sure. So that's a great question. So I would look at it in two ways. One, yes, we can have an alter ego, but even before we mention that or teach that, I would plan out a day. Like, let's just say this Saturday, you guys are free for 2 hours and you say, okay, he has these 4 fears. Maybe one is heights. Maybe one is snakes. Maybe one is spider, like whatever specifically it is. And I would choose one to face it. And society would say, oh, that's dangerous. But before they start to go like that, we just look at it and say, okay, if it is fear of heights, we're not saying to go skydiving. We're not saying roller coasters immediately, but there could be like a rock climbing wall that's indoors somewhere. And you have the harness and it's indoors, it's not too high, and they have a kids wall. And so that's just one example. So like if he sees dad or the instructor on the kids wall and to say, hey, we're not going to do the big one. Maybe in a couple months, we'll try that. We're just going to focus on this one. We're going to go 2 to 3 meters up. You have the harness. I'm standing right here holding your rope. Let me show you first. And if he sees you do it first, and then the trainer or the instructor is like, okay. And then he sees other kids maybe in the class that are on the big wall. If they see it, then it gets them excited where they're not worried about fear. They more so feel, hey, I don't want to be the only one that's not going to do this thing. So those moments are also powerful because then he's more willing to try the small wall, get into the harness. Yes, he's still scared. Yes, he still has adrenaline rushing, but afterwards he comes down, the excitement and the rush that opens your eyes where I'm not saying the fear is instantly eliminated, but it's more of an excitement and confidence of, wow, I'm not hurt. I'm okay. He did it. I did it. I saw other people do it. This is awesome. And then everything else starts to become easier in martial arts, public, everything like that. So I would plan out what exactly the fear is and try to face it in a small mini steps before you just like go to the biggest one. So with the alter ego, another thing you could do. So like after facing that thing, whatever it is, then you could play in the alter ego and then you can get a sheet of paper and have him write out what are the characteristics or traits of him and what is his name. So maybe he has a specific nickname or he watched a movie and he's like, I like that name, or I wish my name was something else, not Dominic, whatever it is. But once he lists out the characteristics, he could say strong, confident, powerful. He can do a backflip, like all the things a kid would think about, and then just get excited about that individual. And then he can write out what he currently is and then say, okay, so when we go here this weekend to, let's just say that it's a haunted house, like a small one or something. You could say, who's going to show up? Dominic or XYZ, whatever the name is. And it gets him excited because then you remind him, hey, remember, he is powerful, strong. He can do a backflip. He's not scared of monsters and all this, where you more so do a shift, but you have fun with it. And so this approach is very effective as well. So facing it, but also having him write out what gets him excited about that character. And it's usually based on something we saw in a movie, he saw his dad do, he saw somebody else, and he's like, oh, I like this and this person. I like that. I like this with this guy that rides bikes and does backflips, like whatever it is. And he's going to list out all these characteristics and it gets him excited where essentially what we're doing is perspective hopping. So instead of looking at it from a place of fear, we can zoom out and say, okay, yes, I'm scared of this, but let's look at it in this lens. Okay, he has these traits. Perfect. Let's show up as him and see what happens, rather than like creating the what if scenarios that make us scared to ever face it. But if it's something like that, and again, like this approach is very effective. And I feel like it's needed more than ever to face those fears because I can't speak for every country, but definitely in America, society and parents and like the whole structure of everything, it's made society softer,
Yes.
as in don't face fears, don't do this, don't do that. And it keeps everybody in a box where they never see what they're actually capable of. And I feel like that's a reason there's not many good leaders outside of like social media and everything, is because everybody's in a box. They never face their fear. They never push past this. So it's like, how can they lead if they've never been outside of this square and never felt that rush? Then they're going to put everybody else in a square and everybody feels constricted. And it's just like this weird feeling. So I always believe to break out of that box, because the happiness, the confidence, the tears of joy you see in somebody that face their fear and they're still alive, like the majority of the time nothing's going to happen, then they see the world differently. Like I've done that to my friends at Universal Studios. Like living in Florida, you go to all the theme parks and I wouldn't push them onto the roller coaster, but I would talk to them. I'd get in their head and we're in line. They don't even notice what's happening. I'm like, yeah, man, we got this and this. And the next thing you know, hey, you sure it's safe? I'm like, yeah, I've done it. I used to be scared. Next thing you go up and they're like, let me off, let me off. Afterwards, they're super excited and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I have such an adrenaline rush.
Do you think this behavior is encouraged?
Some of the elites or people with the agendas, whoever's pushing stuff, they want the parents weaker to make weaker offspring. So everybody listens to them rather than the family. So like the parents have no control of their kids or teens. It's
Yeah.
the celebrity is making them want to do things, or whoever is up there that they're looking up to, because the parents, they just let their kids do whatever and they don't really have control. So that's definitely the agenda that's being pushed. But the good thing is the parents that say, hey, we're not going to watch this. You're going to make your own decisions in a better way. But once they can see the difference, that's the power. Because I feel like sometimes people are only on one side, but it is good for us to see the good and the bad. And then they can say, okay, here's the difference, rather than just make life too good and too comfortable or too dark and too bad. You have to see both,
Exactly.
and then they can see and react better to different things.
That was the main reason we decided to homeschool Dominic, because we are seeing something that we don't like.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
Do you have any advice for parents that are looking to cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset in their kids?
That's for sure. So I would instill in them the work ethic of getting small tasks done. So sweeping the kitchen, vacuuming this, any home tasks, and they do it at a certain time and structure, kind of like a routine. Build them with that routine, but also show them how that gives them confidence. And then sometimes it could be like a monthly reward. So some parents, they do a weekly, they give them a couple dollars or take them to the movie if they do this. And it doesn't always have to be, hey, I'm doing this thing to get a prize, but it could also be, hey, I feel good doing this because this is what a real man would do, or a real leader, or this is what good adults do, whatever we can do with that. But I would definitely instill the discipline of doing a daily habit, a daily pattern. So it could be like a family walk. Hey, we're going to go on a walk, then we're going to run. Then after that, we're going to clean the house. And then the rest of the day, we can go to the pool. We can go to the beach. We can go have fun. But first, we're going to take care of the body, the mind, and make sure all of our rooms are clean. Your closet is organized. So then we can go do that thing. And when they feel that, they feel a rush and they start to see at home tasks as exciting, rather than, I have to do this stupid dishes again. I got to sweep again. But if we see it in a different way, their memory of that thing feels good. So, like my example is, I had a German mom. Germans, clean, they're focused. So I was a professional cleaner. She didn't have a cleaning company, but Germans are like the cleanest people ever. And so in the military and in college, everybody wanted to come to my place for movie night. And at first, I was like, why does everybody want to come to my place? And they're like, it's so clean. It smells good. You know how to cook. Your food is so good. Everything is so. And in my head, I'm like, this is normal. Then I go to their places and I'm like, oh, this is not normal. I'm not coming. I'm not going over your place. Like your bathroom's disgusting. Like, so it's interesting. So seeing that example from my childhood, it spilled into adulthood. So all that discipline became like the new normal. And it's amazing to see because they carry that with them. So me, I always knew how to cook and clean. So I really didn't have to depend on anyone. And so in relationships, it's awesome because girlfriend's like, oh, wow, I love when you cook this dish and the kitchen's always clean. And like we both do our part. And it's just amazing rather than as a male, we depend on somebody else to do those things. We could do them too.
Derick, how can our listeners reach out and learn more about your work?
Yeah, for sure. So they can reach me at fitwithderick.com, fitwithderick, DERICK.com. So on the website, they would see hundreds of different clients, different body types, and also different struggles that they had. And they'll see videos of their experiences. They have better public speaking, more confidence, overcame their fears. And then other clients was more so, hey, I had a bad eating disorder, but now I'm healthy. My face looks better, skin, and now I just feel better in my career and as a person. So I just love showing real people with real results. And on social media, they can just search my name, Derick Johnson. Most of them will pop up, Fit with Derick too. And so my intent with social media, I show my morning routine. I show my clients winning. I put out videos that make people think. And then I'm just that person that's in their pocket that's always going to make them I'm always going to stay in people's minds because they're like, all right, I saw that video this morning. Let me put away the chips or let me go on a walk or a run because he's going to keep posting this stuff and it's going to be in my mind. So that's what I like to do. I like to plant seeds.
Okay, Derick, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And once again, I just want to say I'm happy for what you do and the reason why you started this. So I'm confident that him seeing these video clips, the audios and everything else you guys are doing, he's going to keep growing and evolving. So just keep having him face those fears. And that's honestly the only way through it, which is going to be amazing to see. Because if he does it with you or his friends, or maybe with the sensei, he's going to grow like never before, where he's just going to be like, wow, he's going to have so much confidence and the light bulbs go off.
Exactly. Actually, what I'm doing now is one of my fears.
Okay,
So
perfect. Good.
I'm facing my fear
That's
just
awesome.
to show him that it's possible. And in time, I will improve and we'll see what's next.
Good. It was a pleasure being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Derick. If you've enjoyed this episode, please visit thetribearchitect.com/5. Then share the link with one person that you believe it would add value to. Until next time, thank you for listening.